Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ryan. Today I'm going to be refuting Josie's claim that grade inflation is a bad method of grading at four-year universities. She uses two secondary claims to support her argument. One, grade inflation has not shown an increase in student academic competency. And two, some professors' reliance on grade inflation decreases the quality of education. So Josie, she first gives us some background information on grade inflation. She states that grade inflation started to prevent working men to be drafted in the war. I believe that that statement was more problematic than helpful to her argument because the last draft was over 40 years ago in 1972. Josie then goes into her first supporting claim, which was that grade inflation has not shown an increase in student academic competency. She quotes a scholarly journal written by Kim Halloran and Michael Gordon that stated, "Students demonstrate no significant improvement in range of cognitive skills." My response to this quote is, although this was an authoritative statement, there's no statistical data or substantial evidence provided for the audience to conclude that first, students have increased academic competency, and secondly, to believe that the statement was caused by grade inflation. In a New York Times article, Clifford Adelman of United States Department of Education stated that there were only minor changes in grade distribution between the 70s and 90s, and it is best to my knowledge that higher grades are deserved. I believe that the statement that students demonstrate no significant improvement in range of cognitive skills is a hasty generalization. Josie also quotes an article titled "Grade Inflation Gone Wild," and writer Stuart Rochster explains a recent study of more than 30,000 first-year students across the country showed nearly half were spending more time drinking than studying. I agree that this statement is a profound overgeneralization. Even if the study was accurate, there is no clear correlation that grade inflation was the reason why those specific students chose to drink more than study. Josie's second supporting claim was some professors' reliance on grade inflation decreases the quality of education. She again quotes Stuart Rochster, "To keep leadership happy and to ensure tenure and promotion, they had to focus on keeping students happy." She also provided a key statistic that GPA has risen every 10 years by 0.15 points. My response to that is even though the statistic was a great information tool provided by the advocate, it fails to provide support to her claim that grade inflation decreases the quality of education. There's no evidence that the quality of education is decreased due to a higher GPA average. I found a scholarly article online written by David Gruber that stated, "There have been no convincing studies that demonstrate that higher grades lead to poor learning outcomes for students. A professor's job is to educate all the students, to help as many of them as possible to thrive in their studies, not to foster competition." Even if grade inflation is prevalent in universities, saying that the quality of education received is compromised specifically due to grade inflation is too far of a reach for the audience to make. In conclusion, Josie's claim that grade inflation is a bad method of grading at four universities had not enough statistical and informative data to convince the audience to make an inferential leap. Her supporting claims provided some statements defending her argument. However, the statements were overgeneralizations and hasty generalizations, relying solely on the audience to make the generalization that the negative cause was the effect from grade inflation. Thank you.
You have an outline?
Oh, yeah.
All right, the layout of the argument is clear, that's fine. I thought you summarized what the advocate was saying pretty well. The dismissal of the historical information was okay. I like the reference to the fact that the last draft was more than 40 years ago, so that makes that particular information maybe interesting but not relevant to the contemporary situation. I understood the argument that you're making there. On the first point, you kind of, on her first piece of evidence, you you press because you acknowledge the quality of the researchers and their skills, but you suggest that there's no statistical data there. I think that's a little bit of a press. It's likely that they are summarizing the contents of their own research. The fact that they don't give you the whole article, I don't necessarily think means that we shouldn't be relying on it. I think that's a big inferential leap that you're asking us to make. The argument, though, that it seems like it's kind of a hasty generalization, I do think that that's a reasonable reasoning challenge on that particular point. And then there's a causality argument that you make concerning the drinking and the studying and the grade inflation. I thought that that was a good press. In essence, we just have a correlation that's going on here, but we don't know what direction the relationship is, and the impact that it has on grade inflation, or the impact that grade inflation has on either of these things, is unspecified. And I think that that was a good reasoning challenge. So on the first point, I think the reasoning challenge is pretty strong. I thought you had a good piece of evidence on the second point, a very good piece of evidence. You refer to the advocate's information and suggest that it's really hard to tell what that increase of 0.15 over every 10 years actually means. And then you come back with some nice data that suggests that there's no reason to believe that the change in grades has had a negative impact. I mean, it's almost exactly the opposite of the advocate's point. So I thought that that was really the strongest information in your side of the argument to suggest your position is valid. It doesn't generally talk about the evidence that the advocate used on this, but it does dispute the claim, offering that rebuttal argument that we are talking about. So this is one of those places where the rebuttal argument is definitely mutually exclusive to the claim that the advocate's presenting. Thank you.